So in journalism, we used to have an expression that says, if given a choice between printing the fact and printing the myth, print the myth. So I'm going to tell you the beginning of this, in which fact and myth actually are the same, how we began. And the beginning is a Hollywood story in its own right, in that I was in St. Kitts, and in some ways detoxing from having made a series of movies about murder and mayhem and men in prison in boxes fighting for their freedom, and I'd finished a film which was going to shortly end in the execution of the subject of the film. So I was looking for something very light as the next thing. That next thing was shaping up to be the Bob Marley story, which, if you know anything about Bob's life, is about making love, not war. And while in St. Kitts, one night we were having dinner, my partner and I, Karen Longley, who's sitting right here, and a man came up, having been introduced, and said, "My sister wrote the greatest book ever in the history of books. And this book is going to win you an Academy Award." My food getting cold, and this man who would not leave it alone. "My sister wrote the greatest book, and this is going to win you an award." So I said, yeah, drop it off at the hotel. We'll read it on our way out. As I came to discover, he actually didn't have the book. He called another island and had someone break into someone's home to get 2 copies of it, put them on a plane that he then met at the airport that morning in order to get these 2 copies to make it to my hotel before our flight was to leave. So we received these 2 books, and we're flying home and exhausted from the trip. My partner begins reading the book. And all the way back to Los Angeles, she says, "You have to make this movie." She says, "You have to make this movie you have to make." And when I find out what the light piece is that I'm going to make next, I said, "Well, what is it about?" "Oh, it's a woman whose grandmother is hanged, and the grandmother has killed the lover and the husband, and men are dying." And I said, "Well, what? What is the likeness of it?" She said, "It's about you." She said, "It's about where you came from." So I took the book and I looked in the jacket of it, and there was a map of Dominica, which I'd never seen, a full relief map of Dominica. I'd been here with my dad, who was from Colliho. And so I see this and I said, well, let me see if Colliho is on this map. And of course, there is Colliho. And I get home and I read this, and it is all about Colliho and Roseau. It is about where my father came from. It is about the time of my father. And I learned an expression from T.S. Eliot that brought it home to me here. It says, "You shall return to that place of your birth or of your origin, and you shall know it for the first time." And so through Unburnable, I returned to the place of my birth. My DNA is there, and I came to know it for the first time. And that set us off on the journey. I called Marie-Elena. I said, "Your brother," and before I could say any more, she said, "I'm so embarrassed. I heard what he did to you in the restaurant. I'm so embarrassed." I said, no, don't be. Your brother was right. Because you've written something truly wonderful, and we would like to make a film. And she said, "Well, who's going to write it? Who would you?" I said, "You are." And that began our adventure. What we thought we would do is let you in on some of our process and then talk about what happens from here. Why we're here is a very wonderful part of the process. And then if you have any questions about what we're going to do and how we did any of these things, we thought we would respond to some of those. I think the greatest challenge for you, as I recall, when we began, was getting over just sheer fright.
Yeah, and disbelief. I always say I don't believe in fairy tales. And it sounded too much like a fairy tale that real life, and I Googled you, for days to make sure that, you were what they said you were, and I checked your references. This is why I asked Stefan, the Minister of Tourism in St. Kitts, who gave me the assurance that he made the introduction to my brother, and he said, oh, he's wonderful, and he's just good people, and, like, it's salt of the earth. And I said, yeah, okay, fine. And I kept Googling, and I was like, yes, he actually has made a number of very, very significant movies. Because, when somebody says they're a producer, right, it doesn't sound right. Everybody will make that claim.
Yeah, so, my mother always thought I was a gangster.
Right. I'm a producer. So I had to get over the disbelief and the shock.